Good morning, dear students. This is Professor Indu Shrivastava, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, SIRT Excellence. Today, we are going to discuss about your subject, that is discrete structure, and subject code is CS302. So, in the continuation of your discrete structure, today we will going to discuss about the graph theory, right? So let's start. So dear students, first of all, I would like to tell you what is graph, right? And how many types of graph and what are the uses and property of the graph, right? So here we discuss about the simple definition of graph, that is a graph is a pictorial representation and mathematical representation of a set of objects where some pair of objects are connected by a link, right? In other words, we can say that a graph is an ordered pair. Here you can see this is the graph G, and graph G is having a V, comma E. V that means vertices and vertex, and E that means edges. That means the graph is the made with the help of edges and vertices. Here you can see the simple diagram of the graph, right? Here this is the graph plotted with the help of 5 vertices A, B, C, D, E, and all the vertices to be connected to each other with the help of edges. But E is not connected. So this graph is connected. This graph of edges are connected. AB is also connected. AC is also connected. BC is also connected, and AD is also connected, right? So this is a simple graph. In other words, you can also say that, the graph is a special mathematical technology, and also we can say that a graph is a collection of points, line, and specific point and line, right? And graph is here we denoted the graph or denoted the graph G equal to V, comma E, where G is specify the graph, and V is the vertices, and E is the edges, right? Here you can see the simple example of the graph, right? In this diagram, I already explained you, but now one more time I would like to explain you in this diagram. A, B, C, D, and E are the vertices of the graph, and A, B, B, C, C, A, and A, D are the edges of that particular graph, and E is not included as a edges because this vertex is not connected to the other edges, right? Here now we discuss about the how many types of graph. So here you can see first one is the null graph. The null graph, right? This is the diagram of the null graph. What is what is a null graph? Null graph is in which there are no edges between its vertices. Vertices. A null graph is also called the empty graph. Null graph is having the vertices, but this graph is not having edges, right? So that's why we called this graph is a null graph. Second one, we discuss about a simple graph, right? What is simple graph? Here you can see the diagram, this one and this one. This is the not a simple graph. Here we discuss about this is the not simple graph, and this is a simple graph, because simple graph is a undirected graph who with parallel edges and no loop are connected. Also we can say that a simple graph which has a vertices, the degree of every vertices in most n minus 1, right? So this diagram is not a simple graph, and this diagram is a simple graph, right? Next we discuss about the undirected graph. What is undirected graph? Here you see the diagram, this one. This is the undirected graph, right? So what is undirected graph? That means the undirected graph is a graph whose edges are not directed not directed, right? That means this graph is having also vertices and edges, but not any direction, not a specific any direction, right? So that's why we are called, this graph is a undirected graph. After that, we discuss about fourth one, that is directed graph. So what is directed graph? Oh, sorry. What is directed graph? Here you can see this diagram is a directed graph. Here you can see the diagram. This diagram having 5 vertices, A, B, C, D, and E, and all the vertices are connected with each other, and this connection is called edges. So A, B, A, C, these are the connected. So this graph is a directed graph because the directed graph is in which the edges are directed by arrow, any direction. And also we can say that this graph is a directed graph. Here you can see the directed graph, right? So this is the directed graph, right? So in this diagram, we can also say that the above the each edges is directed by the arrow, and directed edges has an arrow from A to B, means the A is related to B, B to but B is not related to A, right? That means the if any graph, if any edges have any direction to any direction, that means ki this graph is related to that vertices. That means ki A vertices is related to a B, but B not related to A. Similarly, B is a vertices, and B vertices having B vertices having a arrow with the direction of C in so we can say that ki B is the related to C, but C is not related to the B, right? After that, we discuss about the complete graph. What is complete graph? Fifth one is complete graph. This diagram is a complete graph. This is right. So a complete graph in which every pair of vertices is joined by the exactly one edges is called the complete graph. It contained the all possible edges, and also we can say that the complete graph with n vertices contain exactly n C2 edges, and it's represented by kn. If any representation is required, then we can represent like this. And also we can say that the each vertices in this graph is connected with all the remaining vertices through exactly one edge. Therefore, the both graph are is they called the complete graph, right? After that, we discuss about the connected graph. Connected graph. What is connected graph? This diagram is connected graph. This one, right? Where I am pointing the arrow. So this diagram is a connected graph. In a connected graph in which we can visit from any one vertices to any other vertices. In a connected graph, at least one edge or path exists between every pair of vertices, right? Here you can see the diagram. In this diagram, we can travel in this diagram. We can traverse from any one vertices to any one other vertices. It means there exists at least one path between every pair of vertices. Therefore, it is called the connected graph. After that, we'll discuss the next one, that is multi multigraph. So what is multigraph? What is multigraph? Multigraph is a simple, this graph is having more than one edges. One vertices have more than one edges. That's why we are called, this graph is a multigraph, right? In the continuation of again, so many types of graph having in future, the star graph, so many types of graph, right? So cyclic graph, acrylic graph, so many types of regular graph, disconnected graph, connected graph. so many types of graph having, but now we are discussing these graph. And also important graph is available, that is weighted graph. So what is weighted graph? And in this graph theory, here we can see the diagram of the weighted graph, right? Weighted graph is a graph which graph is whose edges have been labeled with some weight, with some weight or some numbers, or also we can say that the length of path in a weighted graph is the sum of the weight of the all edges in the path. Here you can see the diagram. We discussed the weighted graph with this help of this diagram, right? So this diagram is having 4, 5, 7 edges, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So this is the weighted graph. Weighted graph. AB edge is having 5 weight. AB edge, this is the vertices, A and B vertices, and AB edges have the weight of 5. So here we write A, arrow B, arrow C, arrow D, arrow E, arrow G. So what is the resultant of that? A to B, that means 5. B to C, that means 4. C to D, that means 5. D to E, that means 6. And E to G, that means 5. So we written 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5 equal to 25. That means this path is having the value of 25 to reach A to G, right? So this is the weighted graph, and how we calculate this graph. Here we calculate this graph. Also, in the continuation of graph theory, in future we study about the planar graph, non-planar graph, and so many types of graph we are reading in future, right? After that, in the continuation of graph theory, we'll discuss about the property of the graph theory. So here the few properties. So many property we already discussed, and here we can see the property number 1. The root can be described as a starting point of the network. The path will be known as the associative graph if node of the some types of connected to one to another. And also we can say that the graph will be known as the dissociative graph in all the other cases. And we can say that if a cycle graph contained a single cycle, then that type of graph is called the cyclic graph. And if a single edges is used to connect all the pair of vertices, then that type of graph will known as the complete graph. And next one, if there is some direction or a reverse direction in which each pair of vertices are connected, then that type of graph is known as the symmetric graph. And last but not the least, if there is a graph which has a single path, then that type of graph is known as the path graph, right? So here we discuss about the graph theory, about how many types of graph, and what are the property of graph in the continuation of your syllabus of structure. So thank you very much for listening very patiently.